I'm with you to the end.
Comic book movies have come a long way in the past 50 years. All the way from you'll believe a man can fly to you'll believe a horse can venom.
Surprise, Horsey! I love horses!
And if you saw that four-legged monstrosity in the trailer for Venom: The Last Dance and started hooting and hollering, you can rest easy knowing Tom Hardy's third tango with a symbiote will likely deliver just what you're hoping for. The Last Dance tests Hardy's chemistry with himself in a road trip movie that wholly embraces the deeply weird tone established by this Spider-Man without Spider-Man spin-off franchise. Where The Last Dance really trips up, though, is how it supports that tone, with a terribly formulaic plot that makes this superhero hangout movie a tougher hang than it could have been.
If you look out to your left, you'll see a beautiful view of the Grand Canyon.
Told you we could fly!
Oh, the sun grows,
The major draw remains Tom Hardy's dueling performances as Eddie Brock and Venom, and the bickering chemistry the actor has built up with himself through the first two films.
We're Venom!
Which is ironic given the themes of symbiosis in play. With forces both terrestrial and extraterrestrial out to separate Eddie and his symbiote buddy, Hardy plays up the former's addled, paranoid tics and tense physicality harder than ever before, and you get the sense he's constantly on the brink of a breakdown.
Oh, I think you broke my foot.
Eddie's not completely willing to let himself become one with Venom, and his struggle with the uglier side of being a lethal protector represents The Last Dance's only reliable source of drama. While neither Venom nor Venom Let There Be Carnage had particularly surprising plots, they at least grounded themselves in Eddie's career as a journalist, each taking on the trappings of a different genre that fit the specific story Eddie was researching. The Life Organization's creepy goals of human symbiote union in Venom suited a sci-fi body horror framework, while Let There Be Carnage highlighted serial killer Cletus Cassidy with a crime procedural-inspired story. But The Last Dance focuses on Eddie and Venom on the run after 2 movies of wreaking havoc on San Francisco, and Hardy's human character feels a little less compelling without that investigative angle to fall back on.
I'm Eddie Brock, and this is the Brock Report.
A Las Vegas detour may suggest a Hunter S. Thompson-esque foray into gonzo journalism, but that Venom horse is the closest that The Last Dance comes to Raoul Duke's hallucinatory trip to the heart of the American dream.
Get in.
The sequel mostly sees Eddie at the mercy of his symbiote's whims, more often just screaming and flailing as Venom does the heavy lifting in the action and chase sequences. As for Venom, the symbiote is as food-motivated and attention-deficient as ever, and by far the most likable character on screen.
Eddie, I need more money.
At the end of the day, Venom is a lovable, goopy doofus, the immature best friend Eddie needs to find space for as he's growing up. He's a dummy who likes slot machines, eating brains, and dancing to ABBA with Mrs. Chen. Who among us can blame him? I didn't like The Last Dance all that much, and I certainly wasn't wild about either movie that came before, but Venom, I would get a beer with that guy.
You take me to all the finest places.
I'm a simple man, and when it comes to simple cinematic pleasures, there are few as sweet to me than watching Tom Hardy give bigger-than-life characters silly little voices.
Look where you're lady tonight!
Venom is far more reliable at facilitating The Last Dance's comic relief than its symbiote-fueled action. Though the visual effects have improved a lot since the first movie, The Last Dance has little sense of novelty after 2 outings that saw Venom deploy his tendrils in about as many ways as you could imagine. There's a plot device in play which leaves Eddie and Venom especially vulnerable when they're fully transformed, which could have opened up some interesting opportunities to put Venom on the back foot, but Eddie and Venom become aware of this symbiote AirTag quickly, and it becomes an increasingly predictable way to redirect the symbiote hunter on their tail's attention at best, and at worst, it's an infuriating source of irresponsibility during times when Eddie and Venom know they're supposed to be laying low. There's little variety to The Last Dance's rhythm. Run, fight, hide, repeat. And even at its most chaotic, the action never rises to equal the boldness or the creativity of the central relationship between Eddie and Venom. It feels like a step back from Let There Be Carnage, which struck a much better balance between those 2 elements.
Let's call the whole thing off. Ouch, 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 ouch.
Kelly Marcel, who wrote both previous Venom movies, makes her directorial debut here, and I was hopeful that an increased role for the writer who first illuminated the unique pairing at the franchise's heart would mean a deepening of the dynamic between man and parasitic alien. But at the end of the day, this is a big-budget superhero movie, and Marcel doesn't quite find a balance between the epic and the intimate. There is also a major villain vacuum to contend with. A cold open establishes Knull, creator of the symbiotes, as a brooding and existential threat. But only if he can get loose from his imprisonment, and the Last Dance is in no rush to set him free. Venom holds the key to making his escape possible, but Knull is forced to delegate his capture to his symbiote-hunting xenophages, giant ugly bugs with wood chipper-like mouths which spray the viscera of their victims from blowholes at the back of their heads. See, Venom: The Last Dance is not without its charms. It's a design choice that I feel like standing up and clapping for here as I say it out loud, but by the 10th time it happens, it becomes old hat. Despite being a tricky physical match for Venom, the xenophage is just not a substitute for a villain of substance. Certainly not one movie after Venom faced down his most famous foe, Carnage. Knull is rarely seen, seldom spoken about, and apart from sending the xenophage out in the first place, has almost no impact on the story. Think Thanos in Avengers, not Infinity War. It's sequel baiting of the highest order, and if you're gonna subtitle your movie The Last Dance, that's gonna feel more egregious than usual.
What's his name then?
No.
Chiwetel Ejiofor's General Strickland gets left holding the bag, and as written, he's only an antagonist in the sense that he's in Venom's way.
Let's go get him.
His motivation for wanting to boot the symbiotes from Earth by any means necessary is totally reasonable, and there's zero depth or specificity there for Ejiofor to play as he marshals the government response to the alien battle coming Earth's way. There's also a shadowy organization in play pulling the strings whose name probably appears in very tiny lettering on a computer screen somewhere in some scene of an administrator giving threatening orders. More promises for a sequel that has no guarantee of happening. As I said, we're establishing lots of new factions and players for a movie that's supposedly calling a wrap on this whole Venom thing. Helping the government's efforts is Dr. Payne, played by Juno Temple. Payne is a scientist researching symbiotes, but her role in the story doesn't extend far beyond acting as the military's in-house Venom when it comes to keeping the plot moving by doling out new information about symbiotes. She functions sort of like Amy Adams' character in Arrival, but way less interesting, which is shocking considering the amount of time that Last Dance spends establishing Payne and her tragic past. But then, storytelling precision has never really been the strong suit of these movies. That feels especially true once Eddie crosses paths with a UFO hunting family on their way to Area 51, led by a very burnt out looking Rhys Ifans. The family picks up a hitchhiking Eddie just when he needs some sound spiritual guidance, but their odd and child-endangering dynamic is far more off-putting than endearing. By the time they're filling the Russian family from the theatrical cut of Justice League role of getting in trouble during the climax just so someone else can have a hero moment, the amount of time The Last Dance cedes to them feels like it could have been better used diving deeper into Eddie and Venom's bond.
We are
Venom. We're gonna need to work on that.
If this is truly The Last Dance, then things end for Venom much as they began, with a mostly boring superhero story occasionally elevated by a jittery Jekyll-and-Hyde performance from Tom Hardy. Venom: The Last Dance is torn between its responsibilities to big-budget comic book movie making and a more focused genre story of a boy and his alien. The threat Knull poses from afar often steals the movie's focus to disappointing results, but there's still some fun to be had on this freaky ride into the sunset, largely courtesy of the toothy titular symbiote.
nice Uzi.
Lackluster action and new additions that distract from the unique relationship at the franchise's heart suggest it's past time to send this Venom horse to the glue factory. Hopefully we get something back that sticks just a little bit more. Thanks for watching. For more movie reviews, check out what we thought of Terrifier 3 and Salem's Lot, and as always, be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you like to watch IGN.
Nazi jacket! What is this feeling? It's like...
This feeling?
It's like all of my problems have gone away!
Do this all the time.